At the burial, the horse became uncontrollable, violently striking the casket of its master until the top broke open. What emerged left everyone frozen in disbelief. The day had begun as silently and ordinarily as any other in the quaint, dusty town of Laredo, Texas. The ground, cracked and resistant, reflected Ethan's soul. A man who had dedicated his life to cultivating these tough fields, breathing in the arid air and caring for the handful of animals on his humble farm. Known universally as a man of silent perseverance, Ethan had never aspired to leave the harsh landscape of these plains. His comfort was found in the earth's grooves and the distant calls of roosters at daybreak. As he carried out his early chores, the quiet was shattered by his neighbor Warren, who approached him out of breath. "Ethan!" Warren exclaimed, his tone laced with urgency. "There's a foal left alone by the river path. It can hardly stand. Seems like it was just abandoned there." "The poor creature," Ethan responded with a sad shake of his head. In that moment, an unseen force tugged at his heart, urging him forward. Dropping his tools immediately, he made his way to the path. Although it wasn't Ethan's first time rescuing a vulnerable animal, something in Warren's words resonated deeply. It felt unique, as if this meeting was destined. Upon arriving, Ethan was immediately halted by the scene before him. Beside the dusty road, the foal lay, a delicate and shivering form, barely holding on to life. Its fur, thick with dirt, stuck to its thin body, and its large, dark eyes met Ethan's with a haunting blend of terror and weariness. "Oh, little one, what have they done to you?" he whispered softly as he moved closer, his voice filled with calm reassurance. He was aware of the foal's fragile condition. Any abrupt action could scare it, draining the scant energy it possessed. As Ethan approached, the foal attempted to stand on its weak legs, only to collapse back to the earth, raising a cloud of dust. A few onlookers on the trail stopped to observe, their whispers skeptical. An older man in a straw hat expressed a bleak view. "Ethan, that foal is practically lost. Why bother? It's just going to be another load for you." Ethan, however, ignored the comment, his attention entirely on the tiny being in front of him, its strained breaths and quivering body signaling a desperate fight for survival. To Ethan, every creature was valuable, no matter its size or condition. Looking into the foal's eyes, he detected a slight yet steadfast spark of life. That small spark affirmed his decision. Gently, he knelt, carefully cradled the foal in his arms, and felt its alarming lightness. The foal's vulnerability was deeply moving. Feeling its faint tremors against him, he murmured encouragingly, "I've got you now. As long as you're breathing, there's hope." Resolved, he embarked on the lengthy trek back to his ranch, ignoring the skeptical looks from the bystanders. To Ethan, this foal represented more than just a responsibility. It symbolized a commitment, a promise he was ready to fulfill. Upon reaching home, he gently placed the foal on a bed of new straw in the aging barn, watching as it settled into its first moments of comfort. "I'll name you Star," he murmured with a slight smile, "because that's what you represent, new life." The name was more than fitting. It was a pledge to give this delicate creature a second chance at life. For Ethan, Star wasn't just a name, it was an oath. Silently, he committed to do everything within his power to nurture the foal back to health, regardless of the effort it would entail. That night, he remained vigilant by the barn door, keeping a constant watch over Star. He periodically walked over, offering water and speaking softly, "Rest, Star." His voice soothing in the quiet of the night. "Tomorrow will be better." As the first light of dawn tinged the sky, Ethan returned to the barn, his heart filled with both apprehension and hope. The night had been fraught with tension, each slight noise and subtle movement keeping him alert. Yet as he entered, he was certain of one thing. He would advocate for Star's recovery, step by step. The foal seemed more at peace, although her breaths were still shallow. With each step closer, Ethan's pulse quickened with the fear of finding her lifeless. But there she was, lying in the hay, her large, dark eyes looking up at him, weary yet thankful. Without losing a moment, Ethan carefully picked her up and began the walk to the town vet, a knowledgeable elder respected for his profound connection with animals. The path wasn't long, but in the cold morning air, it seemed to stretch endlessly. Upon arrival, the vet emerged, his keen eyes assessing the frail foal in Ethan's embrace. "What do we have here?" the vet asked, adjusting his glasses to better examine her. "It's Star," Ethan said with a calm, steady tone, concealing the whirlwind of concern within him. "I found her abandoned by the river. I couldn't just walk away." The vet nodded, an unspoken understanding crossing between them as he recognized the connection already forming between Ethan and the fragile foal. After a detailed checkup, the vet let out a deep sigh, his face growing serious as he turned to Ethan. "I must be honest with you, Ethan. I don't want to offer you false hope. Star is extremely frail. Her body is struggling just to keep going, and frankly, the outlook isn't promising." He paused, searching for the gentlest way to continue. Even with weeks of care, she might not survive. Ethan felt a tightness in his stomach as he heard the grim prognosis, but his resolve did not waver. He glanced down at Star, her breathing labored as she rested on the exam table. "As long as she has breath, Doc, I'm not giving up," Ethan declared, his voice resolute. The firmness in his tone brooked no argument. It was evident to both men that for Ethan, Star represented more than just a pet. She was a commitment, a vow he intended to keep. The vet nodded, touched by Ethan's dedication, and handed over a set of care instructions. "She'll need soft food, easy to digest, keep her warm, particularly during the night. The cold can worsen her condition." He also provided Ethan with a small bottle of vitamins and some additional advice. "Give it your all, Ethan, and may God be with you." With renewed determination, Ethan held Star close and returned to his ranch. That night marked the beginning of his meticulous care. He followed the vet's guidance meticulously, preparing a blend of warm milk and softened feed, and offering it to Star in small, manageable portions. Initially, she resisted, her feeble body barely reacting, but Ethan's patience was unwavering. He spoke to her in hushed tones, infusing his words with comfort and encouragement, as if willing her to fight back. "Come on, Star, you're not alone. I'm right here with you," he murmured, gently caressing her frail back, feeling the delicate structure of her bones under his hand. His touch was tender, hopeful that his warmth and attention might spark her desire to survive. The days melded into weeks, and Ethan scarcely left Star's side. He rose in the middle of the night to feed her and kept her warm, particularly as the winter chill found its way into the barn through every crevice. Each day was a minor triumph, a battle waged with steadfast patience and love. The nights stretched long, yet Ethan drew strength from the subtle signs of life in Star's eyes, those slight flashes that seemed to reassure him she was still fighting. Then, on one early morning, as he kept his routine watch, he noticed a change. Star was attempting to stand. Her legs shook under her slight frame. Ethan held his breath, observing her every effort. She stumbled and fell, yet she did not relent. Taking a deep, resolute breath, she tried again, this time managing to remain upright for a few fleeting seconds before losing her balance. That momentary success filled Ethan with immense joy. He recognized the journey ahead remained arduous, but Star was contending, and that meant everything. As the weeks progressed, Star started to take tentative steps, initially just a few wobbly ones, then gradually more assured. Ethan remained at her side, offering support, steadying her whenever she wavered. Each step she took was a victory, and Ethan's pride swelled immensely, as though her achievements were his own. As neighbors passed by Ethan's farm, they couldn't help but notice the remarkable change in the young horse. Those who had initially encouraged Ethan to give up were now looking at him with respect. Some stopped by to ask about his progress, while others observed from a distance, struck by the steadfast commitment Ethan had shown to Star throughout the months. Star's transformation was clear to Ethan and to all who had doubted her chances. The once fragile, quivering foal had matured into a strong, graceful mare, her coat shining in the sunlight, a testament to the nurturing and affection she had received. Every time Ethan gazed at Star, he saw a symbol of resilience and perseverance. In his heart, he felt a deep sense of pride and thankfulness. Star reminded him of his own struggles, the quiet battles he had endured, and the invisible scars that bore the weight of his past experiences. Over time, a deep and silent bond formed between Star and Ethan. No matter his location or activity on the farm, Star seemed to naturally gravitate towards him, instinctively knowing her place was right by his side. Ethan often admired how she trailed him around the farm, her dark, watchful eyes always observing him, as if each of his actions held profound meaning for her. "Star, my loyal friend," he would say warmly, his hand gently caressing her back. And Star, ever so quietly, would bow her head, accepting his touch with a mutual understanding. They did not need words. Their presence alone was sufficient to express all they felt for each other. One day, however, Ethan arrived at the farm carrying a visible weight of sadness, which Star sensed immediately. His movements were sluggish, and his eyes appeared to wander through distant thoughts he struggled to voice. Without delay, Star walked up to him and gently rested her head on his shoulder, as though attempting to lighten his load. This tender act coaxed a slight smile from Ethan's face. He shut his eyes briefly, soaking in the serene solace she provided. "Thank you, Star," he whispered, his voice soft as he caressed her head. "Sometimes it feels like you're the only one who truly understands." In that instant, Ethan recognized that Star was more than just an animal to him. She was a kindred spirit, a dependable presence in his most challenging times. As the years passed, the undeniable bond between Ethan and his mare became a frequent topic of conversation among the neighbors. "It's like they share the same soul," some would say, awed by the profound connection. Others observed their relationship with a quiet reverence, as if it were something holy, beyond any rational explanation. For Ethan, every day spent with Star was a cherished gift. She had evolved from a fragile, desperate creature into a symbol of vitality, an inspiration to all who witnessed her transformation. She restored to him something he had feared was irretrievably lost, a reason to remain hopeful. Every day was an opportunity to face life with a steadfast companion who filled the quiet moments of his solitude. One evening, as the sun set behind the mountains, tinting the sky with shades of orange, Ethan sat on an old log, watching Star as she grazed nearby. A contented smile graced his lips, the type that only comes to those who have discovered genuine peace. "Look at this, Star," Ethan spoke softly, more to himself than to her. "All the effort, all the time, it was worth it." As if understanding his sentiment, Star lifted her head and walked towards him with her characteristic, graceful, deliberate gait. Upon reaching him, Ethan extended his hand, and Star gently nudged it with her muzzle. A quiet promise, a bond that went beyond words. From that moment, Ethan knew that no matter how many seasons passed, Star would always be a vital part of his life. In her, he found not only companionship, but also the strength to persevere. Each sunrise they shared together reaffirmed his decision from that distant morning when he first found her weakened and alone, and the commitment he made to care for her as long as he drew breath. As time went on, Ethan began to feel the betrayals of his aging body. The endless vigor that once fueled his long days now waned prematurely. Mornings turned into a struggle. Each movement felt more burdensome, and getting out of bed required more effort than he liked to acknowledge. His heart, once steady and dependable, now missed beats unpredictably, leaving him gasping for air at the most inopportune times. Although he tried to conceal his weakening condition, Ethan was acutely aware that something was gravely wrong. One afternoon, while trying to lift a heavy sack of grain, a sharp pain clutched his chest. The intensity forced him to drop the sack and lean on a nearby wall for support. His breathing became choppy and desperate, and for a brief moment, the world seemed to tilt under his feet. Star, ever attentive, noticed his plight and came to his side, pressing her muzzle against his shoulder as if to offer her support or perhaps a silent form of encouragement. Ethan reached out, his hand brushing her mane, finding solace in its softness as he fought to regain his composure. "Don't worry, Star. I've still got this. I've still got you," he whispered, his voice soft yet uncertain, as though he was trying to reassure himself more than her. However, Star's deep, expressive eyes seemed to pierce through his pretense, reflecting a deep understanding of the anguish he tried so valiantly to conceal. In the following days, Star began to shadow Ethan more closely. She accompanied him throughout the farm, her vigilant presence always nearby. She was no longer just the faithful companion of his younger days. She had become a watchful protector, always on guard, always close. Ethan sensed her attentive gaze, and although he acted as if all were normal, internally, he was thankful for her silent support. Their unspoken connection had grown stronger than ever, becoming his lifeline as his strength continued to diminish. Eventually, Ethan was forced to face the truth he had been dodging. His days of vigorous farm work were behind him, and even the simplest tasks had become overwhelming. Reluctantly, he called upon his nephew, Noah, for assistance. Noah, a robust and kind-hearted young man, accepted without hesitation, swiftly taking up the farm's daily duties, feeding the livestock, plowing the fields, and managing the tasks that Ethan had once carried out with pride. Yet Star did not easily accept Noah. She viewed him with reserved skepticism, her cautious behavior clearly showing that Ethan was still her world. No matter how gently Noah tried to engage with her, Star consistently returned to Ethan's side, seeking the solace of his company, even if he struggled to venture past the front door. One afternoon, despite the overwhelming tiredness that clung to him, Ethan felt compelled to see Star in the corral. Each step was laborious, yet the thought of reuniting with his old friend spurred him on. When he reached her, she was already there, seemingly anticipating his arrival. Star approached him slowly, her pace deliberately matching his, her movements reflecting his frailty. "You always know when I need you, don't you, Star?" Ethan murmured, his hand gently caressing her smooth neck. Star pressed into his touch, exhaling quietly, her breathing deep and synchronized with his. In those moments, Ethan found a measure of comfort, a temporary escape from the relentless progression of time that wore on him. Yet, time moved forward, uncaring of their connection. Ethan's strength waned further, and his visits to the corral became less frequent. The days he could spend with Star under the open sky dwindled. From his modest home's window, Ethan would observe her grazing in the distance or standing still, her gaze fixed towards the house as if waiting for him to emerge. Occasionally, when Noah left the door ajar on his way to the fields, Star would cautiously make her way to the porch. She'd peer inside, seemingly searching for her longtime companion, tentative yet resolute. Seeing her so near stirred a mix of emotions in Ethan, a pang for what he had lost, and a profound appreciation for the unwavering affection she continued to show. The mare who had once depended on him now seemed to be the one looking after him. Their roles had reversed, yet their bond remained as strong as ever, untouched by time or circumstance. "Ah, Star," Ethan whispered faintly, his voice a soft echo. "It seems the roles have reversed. Now it's you taking care of me." In those gentle moments, a silent connection bound them, a bond that went beyond words. On days when rising from bed felt like an insurmountable task, Noah would care for Star on Ethan's behalf. However, on the days Ethan found the strength to make it to the pasture, even if just for a few precious moments, Star was invariably by his side. They both seemed to understand that their time together was irreplaceable, ephemeral yet invaluable. The sunlight filtering through the trees and the soft breeze sweeping across the fields silently witnessed their deep, simple love. As Ethan's health declined, their bond, forged in life's frailty, only strengthened. With each passing day, Ethan's condition deteriorated. He found himself increasingly confined within the modest walls of his home, where even the sunlight entered reluctantly, casting a feeble light through the thin curtains. Each breath he took was laborious, accompanied by a deep ache in his chest. His family rotated in, caring for him, bringing water and tending to his needs, but Ethan's mind often drifted beyond his physical confines. His thoughts perpetually returned to Star. Whenever he managed to gather enough energy to speak, he would inquire about her. Is she all right? Has she been fed? Has anyone let her roam in her favorite spots? The mare remained a persistent concern, her well-being a constant weight on his mind. As Ethan felt his time dwindling, the uncertainty of Star's future loomed large, a burden almost too heavy to shoulder. One late afternoon, a fleeting relief from his discomfort granted Ethan a moment of clarity. "Noah," he murmured, "open the window. Please, let me feel the air, hear the fields, and maybe catch a glimpse of Star." With tender attention, Noah drew back the curtains and opened the window wide. The cool, fresh air of the countryside flowed in, bringing a sense of relief, and there she was, drawn by an unspoken connection. Star appeared in the field, her dark form outlined against the golden glow of the setting sun. Ethan's eyes softened at her sight. Feeling his gaze, Star started moving slowly toward the house. She halted just short of the porch, where the light faded into shadows, her presence emanating a serene quietude. A faint smile touched Ethan's lips, and with a delicate whisper he said, "Star, my dear Star, you've always been so much more than just an animal to me." From that day forward, Star seemed profoundly aware of Ethan's weakening condition. Each day she would come to the window, waiting patiently, as if she understood the limited nature of their remaining time. She stood still for hours, offering her silent companionship. Words were unnecessary. Her mere presence brought a soothing comfort to the room, easing the loneliness of Ethan's final days. His family observed this quiet vigil with both awe and disbelief. Some remarked they had never witnessed such loyalty from an animal, while others pondered the depth of an animal's feelings. Yet, when they watched Star steadfast by the window, it was clear she understood. In her calm, attentive manner, Star had assumed the role of a guardian, keeping watch over her cherished friend as his life gently faded away. As time progressed, Star's actions grew increasingly tender and intentional. On the few occasions the family managed to bring her inside, she would gently lower her head beside Ethan's bed, her soft muzzle lightly brushing against his hand. Ethan, weakened and barely able to raise his arm, would make an effort to stroke her neck. In those brief, cherished moments of connection, he experienced a deep sense of tranquility, as though his entire life's essence was concentrated in those fleeting interactions. "Thank you, Star," Ethan whispered one evening, his voice laden with emotion. "Thank you for being here." Star's deep, dark eyes met his, filled with a profound understanding that transcended words. It was as if the distinctions between human and animal had melted away, leaving only the purest form of loyalty, love, and an unspoken goodbye. In those instances, there were no divides or obstacles, just the essence of true friendship and a deep love that connected them fundamentally. As the days passed, Star began to exhibit signs of unusual restlessness, as if she could sense a significant change approaching. She frequented the window more often, pacing anxiously on the porch, her gaze often lingering on Ethan's vacant bed. Watching her, Noah could sense that Star was acutely aware of the looming goodbye. Though it was beyond explanation, everyone present felt that Star was preparing herself for the time when her loyal friend would no longer be there. On a quiet and solemn morning, as his loved ones gathered around, Ethan passed away. The house fell into a profound silence, only occasionally broken by the soft cries of his family and their whispered prayers. The news of his passing quickly spread throughout the small community, and neighbors and friends soon gathered to pay their respects to a man cherished by all. Their expressions mirrored the communal sorrow. Ethan was more than just a farmer. He was a respected figure, a devoted friend, and a righteous man whose impact reached far and wide. His family, deeply grieved by his departure, set about organizing a funeral that would reflect the simplicity with which he had lived, marked by sincerity and deep appreciation for his life. As arrangements for the service were made, the air was filled with gentle voices recounting the stories and wisdom Ethan had imparted to many in the town. But amid these human expressions of loss, there was another deeper grief, one that words could hardly convey. Star, the faithful mare who had spent countless mornings with Ethan, felt his absence profoundly. Their daily routine had been consistent for years. Each dawn, Ethan would head to the corral and their day would start together. But now the corral was unsettlingly silent and the gate remained closed. Confused and restless, Star paced back and forth. She looked towards the house with hopeful eyes, waiting for Ethan to emerge. But as the hours passed without a glimpse of him, she began to search the property. Her movements became increasingly frantic, her sorrowful eyes reflecting a profound despair that touched everyone who witnessed her plight. Noah, noticing Star's distress, was struck by a profound sadness, recognizing that she too was grappling with grief. The concept of loss was as mystifying to her as it was heartrending. Concerned that Star might disrupt the funeral with her agitation, Noah and other family members led her to the barn and secured her inside until the ceremony concluded. Once confined, Star began to resist, kicking at the stall door, pounding the ground with her hooves, and issuing loud, distressed whinnies. "Star!" Noah whispered helplessly, aware that soothing her was beyond reach. Every thud of her hooves resounded through the silence, her physical reactions manifesting her inner turmoil. It was her form of protest, a refusal to be separated from Ethan during such a critical time. For Star, this enforced distance was an intolerable and incomprehensible strain. However, the family felt compelled to keep her confined, worried that her presence at the ceremony might disrupt its solemnity. As the friends and family assembled in the yard for the ceremony, the echoes of Star's anguish spilled from the barn, her whinnies floating over the subdued gathering, each one imbued with a raw pain that touched everyone present. Some attendees cast glances towards the barn, their hearts heavy, recognizing that the mare was mourning just as profoundly as they were. Her sorrow permeated the atmosphere, deepening the collective sense of loss shared by all. The funeral continued in a respectful silence. Each attendee had a moment to honor Ethan, quietly contemplating the lasting impact he had made on their lives. No grand orations or ornate declarations were made, just quiet faces and respectful nods toward the man who had peacefully passed away. As each individual paid their respects in their own manner, the reverberations of a life still confined in the stable weighed on their minds. The stable itself seemed to quiver with the rhythmic pounding of hooves against its doors, a powerful expression of longing and strength. Star, trapped and misunderstood, could not find peace. It was as if a deep, innate force drove her to be near her companion in his final moment. She could not bear the separation while others said their farewells. Her heart seemed to synchronize with her forceful strikes, each one growing louder and more powerful until finally the door burst open with a resonant crash. Star broke free, her speed and might astonishing those nearby as she charged towards the gathering. The guests at Ethan's funeral instinctively moved aside, their faces marked with fear and bewilderment. The quiet solemnity of the ceremony was disrupted by a flurry of surprised murmurs as some stepped back to clear a path for her dramatic entrance. Yet Star continued forward, her intense dark eyes lit with a fierce determination, a poignant blend of grief and purpose driving her actions. With each step, it grew evident that she wasn't merely running, she was on a quest for something or someone. Her eyes finally fixated on Ethan's coffin. Star surged forward without a moment's pause, halting only when she reached her destination. With a forceful raise of her hoof, she hammered against the wooden lid. The crisp echo of the impact hushed the surrounding whispers. She continued to hammer down, each thud weighted with a purpose beyond mere animal instincts, as if desperate to relay an urgent message that remained beyond human comprehension. Her actions formed a pattern that resonated like a heartfelt appeal, a mourning, or a desperate cry for help. "Star, stop it!" a family member yelled, approaching her with caution, yet Star remained undeterred. Her actions were driven by a force, a resolve that no human command could dampen. Each strike echoed a silent bond, a declaration of unwavering love and loyalty she refused to let go. As the crowd watched in bewilderment, several individuals bravely tried to soothe her, to no avail. Star's firm resolve dominated, her continuous hoofbeats casting a sorrowful spell over the air. Then, a particularly vigorous strike caused the wood to crack slightly, eliciting gasps from the onlookers. Ethan's sister moved forward, her eyes alight with a blend of fear and hope. Driven by a force she couldn't understand, she knelt by the coffin, her shaky hands touching the splintered wood. She leaned close, pressing her ear against the crack, and for a moment, there was only the oppressive silence of the grave. Then, a barely audible murmur reached her ears. She recoiled in astonishment, her voice quivering as she withdrew. There's something inside." Her proclamation electrified the assembly, paralyzing them with a sharp intake of breath. In a moment drenched in disbelief, it seemed even time paused in its tracks. Urged by the gravity of her words, several men stepped up, their hands trembling as they began to force the coffin open, their expressions painted with a mix of fear and urgency. Nearby, Star stood still, her gaze locked on the coffin with unwavering intensity, signaling her task was not yet complete. The atmosphere thickened with suspense as the men labored, each groan of the wood escalating the tension. Finally, with a concerted effort, they lifted the lid, exposing Ethan's motionless body. A collective gasp swept through the crowd. Almost imperceptibly, a sigh whispered from within. Quiet yet clear, it signaled a faint spark of life still persisted. The onlookers froze, enveloped in astounded silence. "He's alive!" burst from someone's lips, the emotion cracking their voice. A torrent of disbelief and elation flooded the crowd. Slowly, Ethan's eyelids quivered open. He squinted into the daylight that flooded over him, his features clouded with confusion as he grappled with his reality. His gaze wandered, gradually focusing as he surveyed the bewildered faces around him. Though disoriented, he scanned the crowd, his eyes searching for a slice of familiarity, a beacon in what seemed like surreal turmoil. At last, his eyes settled on Star, the steadfast mare, quietly positioned to the side, her head cocked slightly as though she too awaited their poignant reunion. "Star," Ethan murmured softly, his voice thin and laden with frailty. Despite his weakened state, the presence of his loyal friend brought him a deep tranquility, a confirmation that he had miraculously returned from a realm rarely escaped. At the sound of her name, Star edged closer, her large dark eyes intently meeting Ethan's. Within their shared look was an indescribable link, a connection that went beyond mere human understanding, a bond so profound it seemed to defy death itself. Around them, tears flowed freely from Ethan's family. They were witnessing a miracle they hadn't even dared to dream of. Mixed feelings of gratitude and disbelief filled the room as they observed the remarkable scene. His sister moved toward him tentatively. Overcome by her emotions, she softly held his hand and wept quietly. Others dabbed at their eyes, giving respectful looks towards Star, now fully grasping the extent of her faithfulness. It was her constant devotion that had prevented Ethan from drifting into the final sleep. "Thank you, Star," one family member uttered, voice breaking with emotion. "She is the one who saved you." Ethan managed a weak nod, still trying to make sense of it all, yet his heart knew the truth. Star's steadfast love had acted as his guardian, pulling him away from the edge. The whispers of those assembled were punctuated by the arrival of the local doctor, who had hurried over after catching wind of the stir. Making his way through the crowd, he knelt by Ethan, examining his pulse and other vital signs. After a moment, he let out a sigh of relief and spoke with a calm authority to those gathered. "What Ethan has been through is a very unusual phenomenon known as catalepsy," the doctor clarified. "In such cases, the body becomes completely rigid, breathing becomes so shallow it appears as though death has occurred. It's often mistaken for death itself." He faced Ethan's family, who absorbed his explanation with faces filled with awe and puzzlement. "It's uncommon, but it occurs. It seems that somehow Star's connection with Ethan enabled her to detect what we couldn't, that he was still alive, albeit barely detectable. She made us aware that he was still among us." The crowd slowly nodded, their eyes returning to Star, whose tranquil demeanor sharply contrasted with the surrounding emotional turmoil. She stayed close to Ethan, her calm, undisturbed, as if she had always known what the others had just learned. For Ethan, reality was sharpening with each breath. He reached out to Star, who dipped her muzzle to meet his hand. The warmth and feel of her confirmed his return to life. Life had pulled him back, with Star serving as the vital link that anchored him to this existence. "Thank you, Star," he whispered, his voice soft, yet filled with immense gratitude. Star seemed to understand, her large dark eyes mirroring a depth of wisdom. Those around were deeply moved. Some cried openly, while others stood in silent awe, recognizing the extraordinary nature of what they had witnessed. A demonstration of loyalty and love that went beyond the normal bounds. Following the miraculous recovery, Ethan's family escorted him home, handling him with extreme care as if he were fragile porcelain. They fully recognized his delicacy after such a close encounter with death. In the ensuing days, his home became a haven of warmth and watchfulness. Ethan's relatives stayed constantly by his side, providing relentless care and valuing every second of his newfound lease on life. None was as vigilant as Star, who, since Ethan's return, had not left his side, acting as his constant guardian. The first time Ethan ventured into the pasture after several days of recuperation, Star was there waiting, her patience evident. She moved toward him gently, as if aware of his ongoing recovery. Ethan, still weak, reached out and enveloped her in a long, quiet hug. Star stood firm, allowing him to rest against her neck, as if her mere presence could replenish the energy he had lost. "Thank you, Star," Ethan murmured, his voice low yet heavy with thankfulness. Those few words held an enormity of feeling he couldn't completely express. He realized that without Star's remarkable presence, he might not have been there at all. From then onward, Star transcended her role as merely a horse. She became a part of his very soul, a companion whose connection with him was beyond what words could capture. As time progressed, Ethan's strength gradually returned. His family, profoundly grateful for the second chance they'd received, welcomed Star as a true member of the family. No longer just an animal, she had become an essential part of their lives, adored by all. With her calm nature and steadfast loyalty, Star had secured the affection and respect of the entire household. The tale of Ethan and Star swiftly circulated through their small community, spreading from person to person as if carried by the wind. Each recounting was filled with awe and admiration, as neighbors were amazed by how a mere horse had achieved the unimaginable, rousing Ethan from what seemed to be an everlasting darkness. Star became a living symbol of true loyalty and a love so profound it seemed to transcend life itself. As Ethan regained strength, he spent increasing amounts of time with Star, talking to her in soft whispers, sharing the experiences and memories that had indelibly altered their lives. Their afternoons became a cherished routine, quiet walks through the fields, moving side by side in comfortable silence, their connection so deep it required no words. Onlookers, witnessing the man and his horse in harmonious unity, felt a mix of deep respect and wonder. Some remarked that to see Ethan and Star together was to witness a daily marvel, a palpable demonstration of a relationship that defied conventional understanding. For the townspeople, this man and his horse symbolized something much larger than themselves, a beacon of hope that resonated deeply with the human spirit. As time passed, the tale of Star and Ethan evolved into a local legend. It was shared around dinner tables, recounted at family gatherings, and even captivated the youngest members of the community. Their story of profound love and unwavering loyalty resonated widely, serving as a powerful reminder that true companionship could transcend even the darkest threats of oblivion. Ethan, deeply moved by the lessons Star had taught him, committed himself to reciprocating the care and affection she had provided. He looked at her with a depth of tenderness that only those who have faced death could fully appreciate. Aware that he could never fully repay Star for her loyalty, he expressed his gratitude through every gentle word and touch. "Star, you're my friend, my family, my miracle," he would whisper tenderly, his hand softly stroking her smooth mane, each gesture a testament to their special bond. Star met Ethan's gaze with her calm, wise eyes, her expression radiating an ageless understanding. It seemed she could perceive every unspoken thought and feeling he harbored. As Ethan resumed his life on the farm, he did so with a newfound appreciation for each sunrise and every tranquil moment spent alongside his faithful companion. His ordeal had taught him the fragility of life, that each moment was a precious gift, and that true love possessed miraculous powers. For the community, the narrative of Ethan and Star transcended a mere anecdote. It emerged as a testament to the profound connections possible between beings, serving as a potent symbol of loyalty and love, extending beyond the confines of the human heart. Each of Ethan's smiles and every spirited neigh from Star gave the townspeople a reason to believe in the wonder of life's subtle miracles. Life at the farm continued, woven into the routine of the peaceful countryside, yet enriched with a deeper sense of purpose. Ethan and Star, united by an incredible journey, moved forward as they always had, their bond sacred, having overcome the unthinkable. Their story persisted as a source of inspiration to all who learned of it, a narrative of steadfast loyalty and love that surpassed all expectations. Through this emotive narrative, we observe the deep connection between a man and his loyal horse, illustrating how such a bond can become a lifeline during the most challenging times. Ethan's transition from the vitality of youth to the vulnerability of illness is mirrored by Star's steadfast devotion. Her loyalty surpasses all expectations, showing a profound understanding that transcends words. At its core, this story conveys a powerful message. Love and empathy have the capacity to transform lives, even against the greatest odds. When Star perceived the danger that threatened Ethan, she intervened to save him from certain demise, showcasing that true connections are not limited by species or circumstances. Their tale encourages us to value the relationships we build, reminding us that bonds with animals can provide immense comfort and strength. Ultimately, the story of Ethan and Star serves as a beacon of hope, celebrating the immeasurable worth of true loyalty, a force capable of creating miracles during life's most surprising moments. If this story has touched your heart, please remember to like and share it. Leave a comment sharing how it moved you, and if you're not already a subscriber, consider subscribing to the channel. May God bless you and accompany you on every step of your journey.